name is Rebecca Garnon. I'm a creative thought leader, an enterprise-level innovation and cultural consultant, and an educator and private coach for leaders and change makers who want to make a difference in the world. I'm also a professional creative facilitator and have been a serial entrepreneur for the last 30 years. Today, I'm here as a fellow of the European Institute of Communication to talk about the importance of innovation moving into the next decade so that we can win the future. Okay, let's get started. Winning the future, the neuroscience of creativity, communication, and culture in the workplace, or in other words, how to work smarter, not harder. So in today's agenda, we're going to discuss why workplace culture is about to change, what's coming over the horizon, what is a culture of innovation, and lastly, how to work smarter, not harder. Why workplace culture is about to change. When you couple empathy, equality, and an entrepreneurial spirit together, everything changes. Now, why are we discussing this question? So let's have a look. Basically, we have 5 generations in the workplace. This is the first time in history that this has happened. Gen Z have now joined the workplace, and they're currently sitting at 6% of the workforce. Now, why does this make a difference? The qualities of Gen Z being empathy, equality, creativity, and entrepreneurial spirit have now entered the workplace. This is going to have a massive change in how work is done. Not so much now in 2020 because they only account for 6%. But if we look at what's happening over the next 5 years, they're going to become 31% of the workforce. So things are about to get interesting. Okay, so how does this play out? So what will Gen X implement? Gen X have been waiting a long time to come into these senior management positions, and they will definitely implement more autonomy and equality for all levels of employees. They also understand diversification of technology used and the importance of doing a job fast and well rather than the way it has already been done. So this will shake up cultures across every department. Gen X are open-minded to new ways of achieving goals, which work really well with Gen Z coming into the marketplace and millennials moving into C-suite positions. So speaking of millennials, what will they change? We all know that millennials love collaboration. So there will be more collaboration and teamwork rather than the hierarchies of old. Mentoring will be a two-way street with Gen Z. Although the millennials are very tech savvy, they do understand that Gen Z are tech natives. So there will be mentoring from the bottom up as well as the top down. Creativity and collective teamwork will become the norm. Feedback will be a daily occurrence and be wrapped in the guise of feed forward. So instead of stopping ideas with but, millennials will allow ideas come through from Gen Z with questions like yes and to develop ideas. Business to business legacy will be overturned and uprooted to include more innovative, authentic businesses. Companies will need to switch to more attracting solutions rather than best price solutions. And sustainability and authenticity is a key driver. What do Gen Z want? Generation Z are known as the change generation. They're the first generation to prioritize purpose over salary. They see their job as having social impact rather than having to make a social impact by volunteering after work. They want pride in their organization. They want diversity and equality. Climate and the environment are of their utmost importance to Gen Z, and they will work for companies based on their mission and their vision statements. They are the most entrepreneurial generation, so side hustles will be a thing. Also, Gen Z realize that their careers are going to have to change. In these changing times and exponential curves of technology, they realize that they're not going to have one career in their lifetime. They realize they will have up to 5, maybe 10 careers. So continuous learning and development will be the lifeblood of their careers. Obviously, Gen Z lead with technology and are autonomous with AI, so will use AI whenever necessary. Gen Z see the internet as a resource for them and they're not afraid to use it. What's important for companies to get Gen Z top talent into their organization is their employer brand. It becomes super important, the mission, vision, programs, policies, and perks that are offered by companies. And they're going to have to think of their purpose beyond profit in order to get Gen Z talent to come into the organization and to thrive there. So what's coming over the horizon? Or rather, what's not coming over the horizon? With remote working, AI, the Internet of Things, disruption, the takeover by the circular economy, exponential curves of technology, another recession, unemployment, polarization, restricted travel, civil unrest, blockchain, the tech war between America and China, and that's to name but a few. I haven't even gotten to the pandemic or the crisis yet. But as we can see, the world is changing at an exponential rate. We're in a stage of transformation. And unless we transform as a business, we're going to lose out. So the message is innovation or extinction. Don't miss the boat. If we have a look here at the new paradigm, we have a phygital world where we have a generation now where the lines are blurred between a digital world and a physical world, and they don't see the difference. We have artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, augmented reality, virtual reality. We also have a blockchain economy that has taken root over the last 10 years and is only growing bigger, past digital coins and bitcoins and into digital art, non-fungible tokens and peer-to-peer structures, where it's now being called the fourth revolution of the internet, where everything is peer-to-peer and the larger tech giants are feeling the squeeze from the smaller startup companies that have authenticity and security of data at their heart, which is very dear to both millennials and Gen Z, but particularly Gen Z. They're interested in data privacy because they've seen what happened to other generations, and particularly the millennials on the internet. So disruption, I've had to preach about disruption for the last 5 to 10 years, but now I don't, because everybody is disrupted. The entire world is living through disruption at the moment, between remote working, frictionless capitalism, low touch economy, and present shock. Present shock is a situation that we all find ourselves in, where 80% of the time, most employees are spaced out rather than tuned in. There's way too much going on. There's no physical contact. Everything has become digital. The older generations weren't ready for this shift to remote working. The younger generations are missing the mentorship through digital because we didn't have the system set up. So disruption is everywhere, and it's only going to get exponentially more difficult moving ahead unless we learn how to be agile and pivot. And then let's look at our economy itself. So we have the circular economy taking over, which a lot of businesses are not ready for. And it's going to be a massive change in the way they manufacture, in the way they do business, in the authenticity of their stories. The circular economy is the new experiential economy that came with millennials. The circular economy now comes with Gen Z. But we also have polarization, social unrest. We have global versus local debates. We're trying to innovate on local levels and then apply it on a global scale. The world has lurched off its axis, basically. We're all trying to keep up and move forward. So how do we thrive in this environment? As I just said, disruption is here to stay. We've left behind the age of information and we're firmly entrenched in the age of imagination and creativity. In the past, there was a chasm between early adapters of technology and then the early majority taking on technology. That chasm has been bridged by Generation Z. They don't care if a software is 2 days old. If it's in beta testing, they will test it, they will try it. Millennials see the internet as a way to share. Generation Z see the internet as a resource, and they're willing to use any resource that's available to them. So any new technology now doesn't really rely on early adapters and early majority, because Gen Z will pick it up as it comes out. Google runs over 300 business experiments a year. I mean, that's a huge indicator of how disruptive the economy currently is and how much apex innovative companies are trying to come up with new solutions to all of the new needs and problems in the world. And it's where every company needs to be. Disruption is here to stay, and we have to become more innovative. So if we look at this, it's basically time to disrupt ourselves. If you had to become the leader who most quickly and effectively puts the current you out of a job, what would be different and better? If you had to create the business that renders your current business obsolete in the least amount of time, what would be different and better? What I've discovered in innovation work and being an innovation consultant is that the quality of your life is a direct reflection of the questions that you ask yourself. And these questions are questions that every employer and employee and leader needs to ask themselves, because we're going through a state of change, and it's the change makers that will thrive through the next decade. What is a culture of innovation? In an ever-changing world, mastering change as a capability will ensure that you survive and thrive in the coming decade. So we need to become masters of change. The exceptional life depends not on working harder, but on different, even opposite actions from habit and the crowd. From where we are in history, that's an incredibly true statement. So let's have a look at the 3 C's of innovative companies. We have cultural agility, creativity, and communication. These 3 elements are essential to a culture of innovation. They are the competitive advantage to winning the next decade. The ability to understand, think, and move with speed and intention is paramount for every business and organization. Today's leaders must build agility, creativity, and infectious messaging into the fabric of their organization. So what is agility? Agility is the ability to create and respond to change. It is a way of dealing with and ultimately succeeding in an uncertain and turbulent environment. So there are 3 main premises for business agility: sensing, responding, and adapting. When you're able to do this, then you can actually keep up with the changing times, you can keep up with innovation, and you can keep up with disruption, because you start innovation early. You innovate on the edges of what you're sensing through forethought within the market. So if we were to ask a business question here, it would be, how might we structure and operate our organization in a way that allows us to create and respond to change and deal with uncertainty? What is creativity? Creativity is defined as the tendency to generate or recognize ideas, alternatives, or possibilities that may be useful in solving problems, communicating with others, and entertaining ourselves and others. Creativity is of the utmost importance in innovation. It may seem to go hand in hand regardless, but creativity and design thinking are the way that we actually innovate in companies, so that we can keep up with the changing times. We can iterate on designs. We can bring customers into the process, and it becomes the quickest way to thrive in changing times. So here we are, another business question. How might we structure and operate our organization in a way that allows us to generate, recognize, and communicate possibilities and opportunities? And now on to infectious messaging. What is infectious messaging? We live in a world cluttered with chaos. If you want your stories to break through all the noise, you have to have a well-packaged story. By developing messaging that sticks, you are creating infectious messaging. Your story will resonate, helping you to leapfrog ahead of the competition. So what does that mean? Stories need to have a hook that can become a mantra in your culture. We basically know that with the millennials, we have 13 seconds, and with Gen Z, we have 8 seconds to get their attention. A hook is paramount to get people on board with any mission or vision or innovation to align a team. You also have to have a compelling story that adds value. Time is of the essence for everybody, particularly when we're remote working, and the last thing you want to do is get on another Zoom call. So the question that people are asking when they see your hook and your story and they're reading your story is this interaction worth a piece of my life? And that's the question that you must be answering with your stories. Contextualize your message with culture and emotion. Culture and emotion are the way to break through noise and get people to have a reaction to what you're writing. And it's super important at the moment because, as I said, a lot of us are suffering from present shock. We're not basically in our bodies. And when you put out stories that actually engage people emotionally, then you will get them on board. You need to build messages that are simple, direct, and supercharged. And that comes back to time. Do I have time to read this? And is it worth a piece of my time to take this on board? Most importantly, include some type of a call to action, showing people how to take action on that message. Communications, particularly at the moment and moving through the next 5 to 10 years, must be a two-way street. You must have a call to action. You must instruct people what you want them to do at the end of a message and how do they take action to get on board and to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. So our business question here is, how might we structure our messages and stories so that they contain a hook, a story, and a close or call to action that resonates and engages our audience? What does a culture of innovation look like? So we have three main elements to create a future framework. We have opportunity hunting, adaptive innovation, and infectious messaging. So what does that look like? Basically, a culture of innovation turns obstacles into opportunities. It empowers employees with collaboration tools across departments, bringing meaning and resilience to the teams and empowering them to break out of echo chambers and silos of groupthink. This is supremely important. We need to move into an era where convergent thinking is not the only way to think. Analytical minds are great when you're deciding and committing, but you must start with divergent thinking across all departments because everybody's involved and everybody will have an impact. Experimenting both internally and externally, engaging both employees and customers in defining the vision. What the research shows about Generation Z is they want to be part of the process, not only with their employer, but also with brands that they buy from. They want to be part of defining a vision for a company. They're willing to give their feedback, they're willing to take polls, they're willing to do surveys so that they can make an impact through other companies and give their allegiance to a brand that they know that they're part of. Moving with speed and intention into a creative process of adaptive innovation, working within short processes that get prototypes and prototypes out into the market as fast as possible in order to get feedback and iterate. Adaptive innovation and the creative process is that you don't spend a year or 2 years coming up with a new product that basically maybe nobody will want. From the very beginning, if you use creative processes, within a week, you can have a prototype or even a prototype out into the market with user feedback. User feedback and your own data are as important as innovation itself so that you don't go down the wrong road and you don't waste money. Experimentation and failure are part of the process, but you fail fast and you fail cheaply. Then, when you have this and you've done this and you have the feedback and you're ready to launch, getting the messages and stories out there in the form of two-way communication that brings both customers and employees together in the act of creation. You must be ubiquitous, trying new strategies with different messages and different platforms, and basically getting feedback as quickly as possible so that you can reiterate and adapt a product with that feedback. This type of innovation is called human-centered innovation. You're listening and responding, therefore creating recommenders and brand loyalty without having to pay for it. Okay, so how to work smarter, not harder. Let's have a look at some little biohacks here for your brain to bring your brain into peak performance. So, the neuroscience behind creativity. Now, you may be wondering, there is neuroscience behind creativity? And the answer is yes. A lot of this neuroscience we discovered because the big money went into research on creativity to allow artificial intelligence to be creative. What it's done for us mere mortals is it's taught us a lot about how creativity works in the brain. And they've discovered that creative thinking is actually whole brain thinking. We use the right part of our brain for generating divergent ideas and the left part for focusing in on a solution with convergent thinking. So what we've discovered is that our brains have plasticity. This is called neuroplasticity. And this happens, neuroplasticity is at its best with creative thinking because we're reaching for the impossible and we're creating the future. However, our brain's default when we're not being creative is basically downwiring, where we are comfortable in our old routines and our comfort zone, and where we're basically polishing the past and predicting the future. So creativity and imagination is the easiest way to overcome hardwired human programs. We're all hardwired for survival and default reaction. Our brains work in automation, preloaded programs, and short bursts of attention. Yet we are constantly changing. We are either growing and rising or fading and falling. When we get stuck in our comfort zone, we think the same things over and over again and react in the same ways. Nothing changes. And this is called downwiring your brain into failure. Upwiring requires curiosity and open-mindedness. It is a future forward and sees all possibilities. It uses forethought and divergent thinking to see the river from source to sea and has fun solving problems. It is creative thinking at its best. If you become more and you lean into change, others will follow and engage. So with upwiring and creative thinking, there is a need for cognition and curiosity. Experimentation and failure has to be part of the process, and we need to understand that in a culture of innovation. So let's have a look at the reticulating activating system part of our brain. What you put your attention on grows. The primary function of the RAS system is to alert the higher brain centers when important messages are received and to filter incoming messages. So basically, to put that in layman terms, you know this yourself. If you've decided that you're going to buy a new car, so you've decided you're going to buy a new Porsche, you see Porsches driving around everywhere. Or if, for example, you think, oh, maybe I could be pregnant, then you see pregnant women everywhere. And why is this important? It's a very important part of creativity because your subconscious keeps pointing out what you have deemed to be important. So if you're in a divergent thinking mode where you're coming up and generating ideas, those ideas and those thoughts will then be fed into your subconscious mind so that it can point out opportunities based on those thoughts. And it kicks in when you're focusing on a problem, a goal, or a solution, helps you to solve the problem. So this leads into the three types of mindset. We have fixed mindset, which does not accept change, closed tightly inside a box, and no forethought. Unfortunately, in the next decade, there is no space for fixed mindset. Then we have the growth mindset, which understands change is necessary, but needs motivation and reason. And where we all really want to be is with a creative mindset, which naturally expands in the face of limitations and creates the change. It is through creative mindset that we're going to thrive in the future. So let's have a look at different ways where we can biohack our brain. The first 20 minutes. So according to Harvard research, the first 20 minutes of your day sets up your energy for the rest of the day. Now, we're all energy, and we know it takes energy to create, to work, to get done what we need to get done. And this is set up in the first 20 minutes of the day. Why is that? So when you wake up in the morning, your body is looking for signals. What sort of a day is it going to be? Is it a lazy day? Is it a day where I need a lot of energy? Is it a day for fighting? So all these signals are running through your body. And it's looking for your feedback because we are biofeedback machines. So just a few things that you can do in the first 20 minutes of the day to make your entire day better. Firstly, do not press snooze. When you press snooze on your alarm, you're sending a signal to your brain that basically says procrastination is okay today. It's on the menu because I don't really need to get up now. I can wait another 20 minutes. You can see how that would unfold during the day. The 20 minutes becomes an hour and the hour becomes 5 hours and you don't get done what you need to get done. Do not look at your phone. When you look at your phone, you're inviting in conflict. You're inviting in something that you don't know, other people's opinions, news, emails, things that will trigger you, where you are taken out of your momentum of you and your day and put into a public arena of triggers for other people. So it's not going to serve you. Do not look at your phone. Stay as long as possible in alpha brainwaves. The alpha brainwave pattern is, when you've just woken up, you're in an alpha brainwave pattern. It's kind of like a light trance pattern. It's where creativity happens, it's where you generate ideas from. And it happens, you come up through delta, theta, and alpha when you come out of sleep. So the longer you can kind of stay in that haze of alpha, the more ideas you can generate for the day. Stand in the light. As I said, our bodies are looking for signals from the changeover from day to night. So the more that you can actually stand in the light, then your body will produce more and more serotonin, which will up your energy levels for the entire day. And to do this, if you adjust your posture as well, and just adjusting your posture where your chest is open and you're relaxed, will get more oxygen, 90% more oxygen into your lungs, which again will affect your energy for the day. First 20 minutes of the day, definitely visualize your goals, because this is where you're in a alpha brainwave pattern, which is a light trance hypnotic state. So when you look at your goals, you have them in mind for the whole day. So they're more likely to actually happen in your life. Take a sip of ice cold water. This kickstarts your metabolism along with a bite of food. You don't have to have breakfast, just a bite of food, just for that signal to be hit, to hit your stomach, to get your body working for the day. Morning pages. Now, morning pages is basically a consciousness dump. It's something that I do every morning. So when you get up, you have all of the thought processes that were going through your head when you were in sleep, and all the things that you're possibly worried about, but are not conscious of. As we know, our conscious mind is 5 to 10% of our actual brain power, and the rest is subconscious. So what morning pages do is you get to write 500 words of whatever is in your mind. You get it out on paper. You don't edit it. There's no grammar. You just get it down and get it out so that you can go on about your day. It's basically like emptying your cup so that you have room for more creativity and more energy during the day. Okay, moving on. 12 minutes. Your brain works in bursts of 6 to 12 minutes of focused attention. That's it, 6 to 12 minutes. When you're in the state, you're basically in a gamma brainwave state, which is like a brainwave state that meditators get into. It's super learning state where everything happens quickly. Gamma states are episodes of whole brain thinking during which you're 200% more effective. And you need to be aware and understand that those states, they don't last long. And that's where your most efficientness and effectiveness will be. And to know how to take breaks in between them. Now, you can prolong a gamma state either through meditation or breathing or a flow state. If you're in like for a longer haul of creating something, you can get into a flow state. But generally speaking, you have 6 to 12 minutes of guaranteed attention. And in between times, you need to take breaks. 60 to 120 minutes. This is your prime time of the day when you have the most energy and focus. Now, this varies from person to person. Before I had my children, my prime time of the day was unfortunately between sort of 3 and 5 in the morning when it was very quiet and I could, create without any distraction. Now my prime time is probably around 11 in the morning. So it varies from person to person, and you need to be aware. You need to watch yourself and see what times of the day you'll see it yourself of when you get the most done and when you are the most efficient. So you need to design a blueprint around this apex operating system, this prime time. Your energy levels every minute in your prime time is worth 2 to 100 minutes outside of that time. Don't allow any distractions during this time and use it to tackle your most important tasks. Definitely use this to work on the needle movers in your life. Okay, so you get to a point where you've had a gamma burst, you're drained of energy, and you need to have more energy. What can you do? Okay, it's researched again through Harvard and the London University that 45 seconds spent in nature, or even looking at a green image, can give you enough energy to go on for another 2 hours of work. Being in nature helps you manage anxiety, blood pressure, depression, and stress. So don't overlook this. If you want to get out, 45 seconds is all it takes. Go outside, be in nature, breathe it in, and then you're ready to go for another 2 hours. Split second. This is one of my favorite ones. So as I've talked about before, we're all living in the effects of present shock. Our brain is at a point where it's all completely tangled and we never really disconnect. We go from one task to the other at super fast, at breakneck speed, in fact, and we never truly disconnect. We think about work when we're when we're at home. We think about home when we're at work, and our brain has forgotten how to switch tasks. One thing that you can do when you finish something, I don't mean finish the whole project, but when you're finished and you're ready to move on to another task, is just say out loud or in your head, done. And it's amazing. Your brain will stop on that command, and then you're ready to start the new task free of the entanglement of everything else that was going on just before that. Okay, use your first name. We all have an emotional attachment to ourselves. So if you're sitting there and you're trying to get something done, you're under savage pressure and stress, and you're thinking, I have to finish, I have to get this done, I have to do this, I have 40 seconds left. It becomes very hard because then it brings up emotional beliefs of, I'm not good enough, I can't get this done, who am I, who do I think I am, etc., etc. However, if you use your first name under these circumstances, so if I was under pressure and I had to finish something, I go, okay, Rebecca, come on, Rebecca, you can do this. That gives us enough emotional distance to actually get through what you need to get through. And it allows you to thrive under pressure. Strengths. Now, I'm not saying don't play to your strengths. We all have to play to our strengths. But what I am saying is that good and great are the enemy of what's possible. So play to your strengths, yes. If it's good, repeat it. If it's great, defend it. But always think of what's possible. Always be pushing yourself beyond what's good and great so that you can move and grow into what's possible. A split-second pause. Now, as we know, we're all living in a reactionary universe. We have the beliefs and we have triggers. We have emotional responses that just seem to come out of our mouth when something gets triggered. If you insert a split-second pause before reacting or answering a question, this allows your brain to not automatically go into default as we looked at earlier, but rather to kind of upwire and lean into the information and the opportunity. So it's a place where before you would just react and not get a good result, to now you're kind of upwiring and leaning in. So an obstacle can become an opportunity. So not only are you not getting into trouble with the reaction, but you're actually gleaning the benefits of turning an obstacle into an opportunity just by a split-second pause. Learning. Giving yourself just 20 minutes a day to develop new capabilities turbocharges your brain to think more divergently. 45 seconds of reflection after you've learned will make most of this information stick. So there's 2 points there. We all have to grow every day. That's why we're here. And as I said before, we have neurogenesis. So we have 1,500 new neurons manufactured in our brain every day. If we don't use them, they die. So how we use them is just 20 minutes a day of learning something new or developing more skills and more experiences will make sure that your brain is constantly upwiring rather than downwiring. So just a parting comment. The mind is just like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets and the more it can expand. We're now at a time in history where the people's neurons who fire and wire quickest will be the ones that will thrive in the future. Thank you. So I'd like to thank the Global Alliance for allowing me to come on here and to discuss innovation. I hope it helped. Speaking about innovation and disruption, a lot of people get nervous and, we like things in our comfort zone. We like things not to change. But I find it very comforting in these times of change that there are methods and ways in which we can innovate that are not difficult, that are disciplined. There is a path, and we just have to choose to use it. And I'd like to say good luck to all of you guys who are out there in the front lines with your creativity, with your stories, with your communication and your public relations. And don't forget, innovation is not hard. It's a mindset. Thank you.